Anger is one of the most powerful emotions we experience. It's raw, it's real, and when it takes over, it feels unstoppable. In those moments, it's as if logic disappears, patience evaporates, and we act in ways we later regret. We raise our voices, slam doors, send messages we can't take back, or hurt people we deeply care about. And yet, the truth is, anger itself isn't the enemy. The problem is how we handle it. Think about it. Every great leader, every remarkable human being has felt anger. But what separates them from everyone else is not that they never got angry. It's that they learned how to master it. They didn't let anger control them. They transformed it into clarity, into strength, into purposeful action. The moments we feel consumed by anger are often the moments that define us. Because in those split seconds, we either allow the emotion to dictate our actions, or we rise above it and use it as fuel. Calmness in the face of anger is not weakness. It's one of the greatest forms of strength a person can ever cultivate. This speech is not about denying anger. It's about learning how to stay calm when anger takes over. It's about building the awareness to recognize what's happening, the courage to pause before reacting, the wisdom to shift perspective, the discipline to channel that fire into strength, and the patience to practice calm every single day. Because in the end, the measure of who we are is not found in how we act when things are easy, but in how we respond when everything inside us is screaming to lose control. Awareness is the first step to control. When anger rises, it rarely announces itself politely. It doesn't knock at the door and say, "I'm about to take over." It shows up suddenly, often in a rush. Our heart beats faster, our breathing shortens, our voice gets louder, and our body tenses. Many people believe anger controls them, but in truth, most people simply never learned how to notice it in time. The first and most powerful step toward controlling anger is awareness. If you can't recognize what's happening inside you, you will always be at the mercy of your emotions. But if you learn to see it as it begins, you give yourself a chance to take control before it takes control of you. Think about it, anger is not the problem. The problem is unconscious anger. The problem is when you don't even realize what's happening until you've already said words that cannot be unsaid, until you've already slammed the door, until you've already burned the bridge. Imagine being able to see anger before it erupts, like watching clouds form before a storm. You don't stop the weather, but you prepare for it. That is what awareness does for you. It gives you the power to notice the storm while it's still far away, before it destroys everything around you. The mistake most people make is they only reflect on anger after the damage is done. They say, "I shouldn't have said that," or "I wish I handled it differently." Reflection after the fact is useful, but it's not enough. True control comes from recognizing the emotion in real time, not just in hindsight. That's where awareness begins. It's learning to pay attention to your body, your thoughts, and the subtle cues that anger is rising, the tightening of your jaw, the heat in your chest, the way your tone changes even before your words do. These are signals, like warning lights on a dashboard. Most people ignore them. But those who learn to pay attention give themselves a chance to make a choice. Awareness requires slowing down, even for a moment. When you're caught up in the heat of emotion, your natural instinct is to speed up. Your words race, your actions become reactive. But slowing down allows you to see what's really happening. It allows you to say to yourself, "This is anger. This is not me. I am not my anger." That simple recognition creates distance between you and the emotion. And in that distance lies freedom. Imagine someone cuts you off in traffic. The anger rises instantly. You feel disrespected, ignored, maybe even endangered. Without awareness, you react. You yell, you honk, maybe you chase them down. But with awareness, you notice the rise in your chest. You hear the voice in your head saying, "How dare they?" And you catch it before it controls you. Suddenly, you have a choice. You can still be angry, but you no longer have to act from anger. That's the power of awareness. It doesn't eliminate the emotion. It gives you power over it. Awareness is also about understanding triggers. Everyone has patterns. Certain situations, certain words, certain people consistently set us off. The unaware person keeps falling into the same traps over and over again, believing that the world is the problem. The aware person begins to recognize, "This is one of my triggers. This is where I usually lose control." And with that recognition, they begin to prepare differently. They enter those situations with more caution, more mindfulness, and more control. There's a deeper truth here. Anger is not random. It's often tied to unmet expectations, wounded pride, or unresolved pain. Awareness means asking yourself, why does this anger me so much? Sometimes the anger is not about the moment at all. It's about a history of moments that feel the same. Awareness peels back the surface reaction and helps you understand the root. And when you understand the root, you can begin to address it instead of being ruled by it. It takes practice. In the beginning, you may not catch anger until it's already erupted. But the practice of awareness is like strengthening a muscle. The more you reflect, the more you journal, the more you replay moments and ask yourself where the anger started, the sooner you'll catch it next time. At first, it may be 5 minutes too late, then 1 minute too late. Eventually, you'll notice it in the first few seconds. Over time, awareness sharpens into instinct, and what once controlled you now becomes something you manage with clarity. Awareness also requires humility. It's easy to justify anger by pointing at others. They provoked me, they disrespected me, they made me mad. But awareness demands you turn the mirror inward. It requires you to take responsibility for how you feel, regardless of what others do. You may not control the stimulus, but you always control the response. And awareness is the space between stimulus and response, the small but powerful gap where choice lies. Think about the leaders you admire most, the people who seem unshakable under pressure. They are not superhuman. They feel anger too. The difference is they've trained their awareness. They notice what's happening inside themselves long before it spills outside. They've learned that awareness is not weakness. It's strength. It's the ability to acknowledge emotion without being consumed by it. The real mastery is not to never feel anger. The real mastery is to never let anger drive the wheel. And the first step in that mastery always is awareness. Without it, you're blind to what's happening inside. With it, you see clearly, and clarity is the beginning of control pause. Before you react, there is a simple truth about anger: it feeds on speed. The faster you respond, the stronger it grows. Anger thrives in moments where words are thrown without thought, where actions are taken without consideration, where instinct overrides intention. That's why the most powerful strategy for staying calm when anger takes over is not about suppressing it or pretending it doesn't exist. It is about creating space. A pause. Just long enough to break the chain of reaction. Think about the last time you reacted in anger. The words left your mouth before your brain had time to catch up. Maybe you raised your voice, sent a text you regretted, or slammed a door. In that instant, the reaction felt justified. It felt like the only option. But afterward, when the wave of anger passed, regret often followed. That regret is the evidence that a pause was missing. A pause is not silence for the sake of silence. It is a conscious interruption of the automatic cycle of stimulus and response. Someone says something, and instead of firing back, you take a breath. Someone does something offensive, and instead of retaliating, you step back. In that small delay, you take back control. The pause does not have to be long. It could be as short as one deep inhale. It could be a count of 3 in your head. It could be choosing to walk away for a moment. What matters is that you interrupt the impulse. That single act of resistance to immediate reaction can change everything. Because when you pause, you give your rational mind time to re-enter the conversation. Neuroscience shows us that when we are angry, the emotional part of the brain, the amygdala, hijacks our response system. It makes us reactive, impulsive, ready for fight or flight. But the part of the brain responsible for judgment and reasoning, the prefrontal cortex, takes a few seconds longer to catch up. By pausing, you allow that part of your brain to engage. You allow reason to join emotion, and that is where better decisions are made. Imagine a heated argument at work. A colleague criticizes you unfairly. Your first instinct might be to fire back with equal intensity, to prove them wrong, to defend yourself. But if you pause, even briefly, you create the possibility of a different outcome. Instead of escalating conflict, you might respond with a question. Instead of matching their anger, you might respond with calm curiosity. That shift can transform not only the moment, but the relationship. A pause turns a battle into a dialogue. The power of the pause also lies in the message it sends to others. When people see you react instantly, they know you are controlled by your emotions. But when they see you pause, they sense strength. They recognize that you are not easily provoked, that you are thoughtful, that you choose your words with care. This earns respect. It shows discipline, and more importantly, it prevents regret, Because once words are spoken in anger, they cannot be taken back. The pause is the safeguard that protects you from yourself. There is a common misconception that pausing before you react makes you weak, that it shows you are afraid to stand up for yourself. But the truth is the opposite. Anyone can explode. Anyone can lash out. That takes no discipline. What takes strength is holding your tongue when you want to speak, lowering your voice when you want to shout, and stepping back when you want to fight. That is not weakness. That is mastery. The pause is also about perspective. In the heat of anger, everything feels urgent. You convince yourself you must respond now, that waiting even a second is unacceptable. But the pause reveals that urgency is often an illusion. Most things do not require immediate reaction. A text can wait 5 minutes. An email can wait an hour. A confrontation can wait until your mind is clear. The pause gives you the space to ask yourself, will this matter tomorrow? Will it matter in a week? Will it matter in a year? Often, the answer is no. And that answer makes calm possible. Consider the image of a glass of muddy water. When shaken, the water is cloudy, impossible to see through. But if you set the glass down and leave it still, the dirt settles and clarity returns. That is what a pause does for the mind. It lets the emotional turbulence settle just enough for clarity to emerge. And with clarity comes better words, better actions, and better outcomes. But pausing is not something that happens automatically. It must be practiced. The first time you try, you may fail. The anger may burst out before you remember to pause. That's normal. Over time, with intention, it becomes more natural. You can train yourself to pause in small ways every day. When you get a message that irritates you, wait a minute before replying. When someone interrupts you, take a breath before answering. When traffic frustrates you, notice the anger rising and simply sit with it instead of honking the horn. These small moments of practice prepare you for the bigger storms. Another key part of the pause is what you fill it with. A pause is not just about holding back words or actions. It's about using the moment wisely. You can breathe deeply to calm your body. You can silently repeat a phrase to center your mind. Something as simple as stay calm. You can shift your focus from the person who triggered you to the outcome you want. If your outcome is peace, connection, or progress, the pause allows you to align with that instead of being dragged by anger. The pause is a reminder that anger is temporary, but consequences are permanent. The feeling that seems overwhelming in the moment will pass, but the damage caused by reacting without thought may not. The pause protects relationships. It protects opportunities. It protects your integrity. And the more you practice it, the more it becomes second nature. Over time, people will notice. They will see that you do not get pulled into every fight, that you do not let every insult dictate your behavior. And that calm, that discipline, becomes part of who you are. The pause before reaction is not about denying anger. It is about choosing what to do with it. It is about remembering that you are not obligated to react immediately just because emotion demands it. You always have a choice, and that choice begins in the space you create between what happens to you and how you decide to respond, shift perspective to break the cycle. When anger takes over, it narrows your vision. It makes the world small. In that moment, the only thing you see is the offense, the disrespect, the injustice in front of you. Anger convinces you that your perspective is the only perspective. It traps you in a single frame as if the story has only one side. But perspective is everything. The moment you learn to shift perspective, you weaken the grip of anger. You begin to see the bigger picture, and in that picture, calm finds space to exist. Think of it like looking through a keyhole. When anger rises, your mind looks through that tiny hole and fixates on one thing, the insult, the failure, the mistake. It feels absolute. But if you step back, you realize the door was never locked. You could open it and see the whole room. Shifting perspective is about stepping back, opening the door, and reminding yourself that the situation you're in is rarely as simple as it feels in the heat of emotion. Perspective gives you choices. Without it, you react impulsively. With it, you respond thoughtfully. Imagine someone criticizes you in a meeting. The narrow perspective says, they're attacking me. They're trying to embarrass me. I need to defend myself. But a broader perspective might say, maybe they're stressed. Maybe they misunderstood. Maybe this isn't about me at all. That shift changes everything. You no longer feel like you're under attack. You begin to see another human being who, like you, might be struggle with their own battles. Suddenly, the cycle of anger loses its power. One of the most effective ways to shift perspective is to ask yourself better questions. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" try asking, "What else could this mean?" Instead of asking, "How dare they treat me this way?" ask, "What pain might they be carrying that made them act this way?" These questions don't excuse bad behavior, but they create understanding. And understanding dissolves anger, because anger feeds on assumptions. It feeds on the story you tell yourself in the moment. By shifting perspective, you rewrite the story. Consider how often we get angry at small inconveniences, traffic jams, delayed flights, long lines. From the narrow perspective, it feels like the universe is punishing you personally. But if you shift perspective, you realize the traffic is not about you. The flight delay is not about you. The long line is not about you. They are shared human experiences. Everyone is in it together. The moment you shift perspective from, "This is happening to me," to "This is something we all go through," your anger begins to fade. You move from victimhood to acceptance, and acceptance brings calm. Shifting perspective also means looking at time differently. Anger convinces you that the moment you are in is the most important moment of your life. But if you zoom out, you begin to see that most of the things that trigger anger will not matter tomorrow, next week, or next year. That insult, that argument, that mistake, it feels huge now, but in the grand picture of your life, it is tiny. Perspective reminds you of scale. It helps you ask, will this matter in the long run? And if the answer is no, then holding on to anger loses its appeal. Another way to shift perspective is through empathy. Empathy does not mean agreeing with someone. It means imagining what the world looks like through their eyes. A person who lashes out might be drowning in stress. A rude stranger might be carrying grief you cannot see. A colleague who snaps at you might be fighting battles at home. When you remind yourself of this, you step out of your own perspective and into theirs. And from that place, anger has less room to grow. Because it's harder to hate when you understand. The cycle of anger often repeats because people meet anger with anger. One person raises their voice, the other raises it higher. One person insults, the other retaliates. The cycle continues until both sides are consumed. But when you shift perspective, you stop feeding the cycle. You choose a different response. You decide not to mirror their anger, but to see beyond it. That decision breaks the chain. You no longer become a product of their behavior. You remain in control of your own. There's also a personal side to perspective. Sometimes the person you need to shift perspective on is yourself. Anger often comes from self-judgment, from expectations you place on yourself that were not met. You miss a deadline and you lash out at yourself. You make a mistake and you punish yourself. Shifting perspective here means reminding yourself that failure is not final, that mistakes are part of growth. That one bad moment does not define who you are. When you treat yourself with the same compassion you would offer to others, anger loses its grip inside you. Perspective is a choice, and like any skill, it grows stronger with practice. The next time anger rises, try stepping back, not just physically, but mentally. See the situation from a different angle. Imagine how someone else might interpret it. Imagine how your future self might see it a year from now. Imagine what lesson might be hidden inside it. Every time you do this, you train your mind to resist the tunnel vision that anger creates. The greatest leaders, the most respected individuals, are not those who never feel anger. They are those who have trained themselves to shift perspective before reacting. They see beyond the surface. They recognize that every conflict has more than one side, that every human being has a story, that every moment of anger is also an opportunity to grow in patience, understanding, and wisdom. When you learn to shift perspective, you don't just control anger, you rise above it, channel anger into strength, not destruction. Anger is often seen as the enemy. From a young age, we are told to avoid it, to suppress it, to bury it deep. But anger is not inherently bad. It is energy, it is raw fuel. And like any fuel, it can either ignite a fire that burns everything down or power an engine that drives you forward. The choice is not whether anger will show up. It will. The choice is what you decide to do with it. Will you let it become destruction, or will you channel it into strength? Think about the moments in your life when anger has overwhelmed you. Maybe it led to words you couldn't take back, relationships damaged, opportunities lost. That's the destructive side of anger. But imagine if that same energy had been redirected. The same intensity that once fueled an argument could have fueled focus. The same fire that once broke something apart could have built something meaningful. Anger, when left unmanaged, is chaos. But anger, when harnessed, is power. Anger signals that something matters to you. It reveals your values. When someone disrespects you, you feel anger because you value respect. When someone betrays you, you feel anger because you value loyalty. When life feels unfair, you feel anger because you value justice. The presence of anger shows that you care deeply. And that's where the opportunity lies. Instead of letting that care explode outward destructively, you can turn it inward, using it as motivation to act with purpose. History is full of examples of people who transformed anger into strength. Social movements have been born out of outrage against injustice. Great inventions have been created because someone was frustrated by how things were done. Personal transformations often begin when someone finally says, "I've had enough." Anger in its purest form can be the spark that pushes someone to rise above their circumstances. The key is direction. Anger without direction is a storm that destroys everything in its path. Anger with direction is a river, powerful, steady, unstoppable. When you channel anger, you are not denying it, you are acknowledging it, feeling it, and then guiding it. Like water through a dam, the energy is redirected towards something useful. For example, instead of yelling when criticized, you can use that anger as fuel to prove through your actions, not your words, that you are capable. Instead of exploding when you face rejection, you can use that energy to sharpen your skills, to prepare better, to come back stronger. Instead of holding resentment toward those who doubt you, you can let that anger become determination to achieve what they said you couldn't. There is also a physical side to this. Anger charges the body. It raises your heartbeat, fills you with adrenaline, makes your muscles tense. Left unchecked, this energy becomes destructive. But if you channel it, it can fuel performance. Athletes know this. They take the fire of anger and pour it into training, into competition, into discipline. Leaders know this. They turn frustration into innovation, into vision, into action. Everyday people can know this too. The next time anger rises, instead of shouting or breaking something, move your body. Go for a run, lift weights, write furiously, create art, build something. Let the energy move, but let it move you forward, not backward. Channeling anger also requires a shift in mindset. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What can I build from this?" Instead of thinking, "I need to fight back now," think, "How can I turn this into fuel for the future?" That shift transforms anger from a reaction into a resource. You stop seeing it as an enemy and start seeing it as a partner, unpredictable, yes, but also powerful when guided with discipline. The danger of unchanneled anger is that it often punishes the wrong people. You're angry at your boss, but you snap at your family. You're angry at the world, but you take it out on yourself. That's destruction. Channeling anger prevents this misdirection. It ensures the energy goes into building rather than breaking. It allows you to transform conflict into progress, pain into persistence, doubt into drive. There is also a deeper strength that comes from channeling anger. Anger often exposes our weaknesses, our insecurities, our fears, our unmet needs. By channeling it, you confront those weaknesses instead of running from them. You turn the spotlight inward and ask, "What is this anger teaching me?" Maybe it's teaching you patience. Maybe it's showing you where you need boundaries. Maybe it's reminding you of what truly matters. In this way, anger becomes a teacher. It pushes you to grow stronger in the places where you once broke easily. The truth is, the strongest people are not those who never feel anger. They are the ones who have learned to master it. They don't waste it on shouting matches or petty arguments. They use it to build resilience, to sharpen focus, to deepen resolve. Their strength is not the absence of anger. It is the mastery of it. They know that the same fire that destroys can also forge steel. Channeling anger is about discipline. It is about refusing to let the emotion control you while still honoring the energy it brings. It is about turning chaos into clarity, frustration into fuel, pain into power. When you learn to do this, anger stops being something you fear or regret. It becomes a force you can use, a source of strength that carries you through the challenges of life. Practice calm daily. Not just in crisis, calm is not something you switch on when chaos hits. Calm is a state of being that you cultivate long before the storm arrives. Too many people believe they will somehow summon calm when they need it most, in the middle of conflict, in the middle of pressure, in the middle of anger. But calm is like any skill. It is built in practice, not in panic. If you only search for calm when your emotions are already out of control, it will feel impossible to find. The truth is, you prepare for those moments in advance by practicing calm every single day in small ways, in ordinary situations, so that when crisis comes, you are not building calm, you are simply living it. Think of calm like a muscle. You cannot expect to lift heavy weights if you never trained with the light ones. In the same way, you cannot expect to control your anger in a heated argument if you never practice patience in everyday life. Every moment of irritation, every small inconvenience, every minor frustration is an opportunity to train. The traffic jam, the long line at the grocery store, the delayed email reply. These are not just annoyances, they are training grounds. Each time you choose not to give in to irritation, you are practicing calm. Each time you take a breath instead of reacting, you are strengthening your emotional discipline. Most people overlook these daily chances because they are waiting for the big moments. But it's the daily repetitions that build resilience. It's the small acts of control that prepare you for the big tests. Just as an athlete trains every day so their body knows how to respond under pressure, practicing calm daily ensures your mind and emotions know how to respond when anger threatens to take over. By the time the crisis comes, calm is no longer something you have to find. It's something you already are. Daily practice also rewires the way you see the world. When you intentionally choose calm in small moments, you begin to notice how often your default is to overreact. You notice how quickly impatience rises, how easily frustration creeps in. That awareness becomes your advantage. Because the more you see it, the more you can interrupt it. And the more you interrupt it, the weaker its grip becomes. Over time, situations that once triggered you easily will barely stir you, not because the world changed, but because you did. Practicing calm daily also protects your energy. Anger, stress, and irritation drain you. They steal focus, cloud judgment, and leave you exhausted. Calm, on the other hand, conserves energy. It allows you to think clearly, to respond deliberately, to act with intention. Imagine how much energy you lose every day by letting little things get to you. The driver who cuts you off, the coworker who interrupts, the technology that doesn't work the way you want. Each reaction is a leak in your energy. But when you practice calm, you plug those leaks. You save that energy for what actually matters. There's also a deeper benefit. Practicing calm daily shifts your identity. It's no longer just about reacting differently in certain moments. It's about becoming someone who is unshakable. People begin to see you differently. They notice that you don't get rattled by the things that throw others off. They trust you more because they see that you stay steady under pressure. And you begin to see yourself differently too. You start to believe that you can handle whatever life throws your way because you've trained your response every single day. That belief is powerful. It builds confidence that no amount of external chaos can take away. The practice of calm doesn't have to be complicated. It can be as simple as starting your day with a few moments of stillness instead of rushing into the noise. It can be as simple as taking deep breaths before responding to an email that frustrates you. It can be as simple as choosing to listen fully in a conversation instead of interrupting. These small choices, repeated over and over, create a foundation of calm that becomes part of who you are. Calm is also built through gratitude. When you practice noticing what is good in your life, you naturally become less reactive to what is not. Gratitude grounds you. It reminds you that even when things go wrong, there is always something worth appreciating. That perspective feeds calm, because calm is not just the absence of anger. It is the presence of clarity, patience, and perspective. When you only practice calm in crisis, it feels unnatural. It feels forced. But when you practice calm every day, it becomes instinct. Just like breathing, it becomes automatic. And in moments of anger, instinct is what you will rely on. The person who never practiced will explode because that's their instinct. The person who practiced daily will stay steady because that's their instinct. What you practice consistently becomes what you perform naturally. There is a reason monks, athletes, leaders, and great thinkers all emphasize daily practice. They understand that mastery does not come from occasional effort. It comes from consistent effort. Calm is no different. It is not a gift given to a few. It is a skill available to anyone willing to train. And the training ground is not some distant retreat or perfect environment. It's your daily life. It's the way you handle interruptions, the way you deal with delays, the way you manage disappointment. Every day offers dozens of chances to practice calm if you are willing to see them as practice instead of problems. The storms of life will always come. Anger will always rise. Pressure will always test you. You cannot change that, but you can prepare, and the preparation is in the practice. Calm is not something you hope to have when the storm hits. It is something you build, brick by brick, choice by choice, every single day until it becomes the foundation you stand on no matter what happens around you. When anger takes over, it feels like a storm inside us, loud, destructive, and overwhelming. But storms always pass, and what remains is determined by how we choose to face them. The real power is not in shouting the loudest, striking the hardest, or proving someone wrong. The real power is in mastering yourself when every part of you wants to explode. Staying calm is not about being passive. It's about taking control of the only thing you truly can, yourself. It's about choosing clarity over chaos, growth over regret, and strength over weakness. The calmest person in the room is not the one who lacks anger, but the one who knows how to hold it, transform it, and use it as fuel for something greater. Every time you choose calm over chaos, you're not just protecting your relationships, your work, or your peace of mind. You are building the kind of character that can withstand anything life throws at you. Calm is not the absence of emotion, it is the presence of mastery. So the next time anger rises, remember this: your reaction is your legacy. How you respond in those fiery moments will define how others see you, but more importantly, it will define how you see yourself. Control the fire, and you control the future.